Welcome to this TARANIS Quick Tip. We're going to do something a little bit different today. We're actually doing this for a gentleman called Barry Brown. So Barry, thank you very much for your question. This is for you. And what Barry's looking to do is set it up so that he can flick one switch on the transmitter, and then the transmitter will automatically send a pulse once every 6 seconds to something like an infrared transmitter on the craft that will then fire the shutter of the camera. Now that's pretty easy to do, and this is the power of things like OpenTX and the TARANIS. When you put them together, you can do some amazing things. Now there's loads of different ways that you could do this with Lua scripts and complicated cascaded timers and things, but there's actually a really simple way of doing it, and I'm going to cover that in this video. So Barry, hope this helps. There are two things that we're actually going to have to do here to set up the timer, and another one to just make sure that the camera doesn't fire accidentally. So the first thing we'll do is we'll just set ourselves up with a brand new model. If you found this video and you haven't seen any other of the TARANIS series, then I'll put a link in the description. There's loads of videos on the channel now that talk about how to set the TARANIS up and do pretty much everything with a radio. I'm going to keep the Your channel free, and that's only because what I really want to do is put the output for the camera on channel 1 just for demonstration purposes. So there's my new model called Test, not a very imaginative name. So the first thing we need to do is actually tell the radio that we want it to send a high value on a particular channel once every 6 seconds. Now we can change how often it turns on and off, and we can change how long it turns on for. The simplest way to do this is just jump into the logical switches. Now we're going to set up logical switch 1, and we're going to use a function called timer. And we're going to say that we want the channel to be on for half a second, and then we want it to be off for 5.5 seconds. That gives us a full 6-second cycle. So it'll come on for half a second, then go off for another 5.5 seconds, then on for another half second, and so on. We're going to assign that to a switch so we can turn it on and off, and we're going to say we want SA in the middle position. That's the first thing we need to do. Now we need a way to output that onto the receiver. So what we're going to do is go into mixes. We're going to add another mix onto, and it could be any channel here, but we're going to add it onto channel 1, just easier for the simulator so I can show you how it works. But in a radio receiver that has lots of different channels, you could pick a free one down here. So we're going to add it to channel 1. We're going to make the source logical switch 1 that we've just configured. We're going to set the switch to be when SA is in the middle position, just like for the other logical switch that we set up. So there we have another mix. Okay, so let me show you how that works in the simulator. Here's the simulator. There's channel 1, which is the one that would be connected to the shutter release for the camera. And we're going to put SA in the middle position. And watch, you'll see L1 turn on and off, and that will drive channel 1 high for half a second, then low for 5.5 seconds. So SA in the middle position, there's the half a second, here's the 5.5 seconds off, and then you'll see it turn back on again. There it is, it's working. Now we can make that a little bit faster. We can change how quickly it goes on and off. So what we'll do is we'll actually reduce this second number to 2.5, and that way every 3 seconds it's going to turn on briefly on the channel. So let's just see what that looks like. SA in the middle position, there we go, on for half a second, off for 2.5 seconds, and it's working fine. So now I can be flying around, I can use my throttle, I can move everything else around, and that little channel is just going to tick away and take the photos as I fly. There is one downside that we have to be careful of. If I turn SA off, the value of channel 1 drops back to 0. Now that could be a problem if that value is enough to hover around the point that triggers either the servo or the infrared connector or whatever it is that you've got connected to the camera. So the last thing we need to do is just make sure that when SA isn't in the middle position and going through the cycle to close and open the shutter, then it will actually make channel 1 go to the position that will stop everything happening. Easiest way to do that, jump to special functions, and very similar to the way that we did it with the throttle hold. When switch A is not in its middle position, i.e. in any of the other positions, override channel 1, and we're going to have channel 1 because that's the channel that the servo or whatever it is connected to, and we're going to make it output -100, and we're going to enable it. Okay, now we're going to simulate it. So now channel 1 is always 0 unless it's in the middle position, and then it's automatically taking those photos for you. If you put it back into anything that isn't the middle position for switch A, it then drops back to the 0 position, which you just need to make sure is the one that's not firing the shutter. So that's how you do it. 3 very simple things. First of all, use the power of the logical switches to set up a timer with an on and off duty cycle, assign it to a switch, pop that onto an output mix where you have the servo, infrared, actuator, whatever it is for the camera you're using. And then finally, just to make sure you don't accidentally take photos that you don't want, just have an override for when the switch isn't in that position where you want it to be running the shutter, to override that channel and turn it into something that will absolutely guarantee it's not running the camera. So Barry, I hope that helps, and I hope that answers the question for you. Thank you for taking the time to watch that video. There are lots of other videos on the channel and they're carefully ordered into playlists, so you may find that there are other videos on this same subject that you can go and watch. So I would recommend going into the playlist area of Painless 360 YouTube channel and looking around and seeing what there is. You never know what you might find. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and happy flying.